Yeah, there's, I think more so you can work on it, but it's about video and what we're doing. I mean, he just got overpowered there at the end and ended up scoring on it.
Craig Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs did not leave this loss on the ice. Moments after overtime ended, the head coach spoke with sharp clarity. His words cut through excuses and focused on development, strength, and mistakes.
Thought he made some really good plays tonight. He does good things, and there's things he has to do better. It's a typical young player in the league. There's plays where he's got to recognize there's nothing there and make a strong play, and he makes plays. Made some good plays tonight again, and yeah, it's normal. Young guy, where he's at, got to get stronger, better decisions at times.
One young player was at the center of it all. What Berube said changed the meaning of this loss and shifted attention inside the locker room. The Toronto Maple Leafs lost 2-1 in overtime to the Detroit Red Wings in a tightly contested game. The deciding goal came during the extra period, ending the game quickly and sealing the result. After the final horn, head coach Craig Berube met with reporters and addressed what unfolded on the ice. His comments focused on performance, execution, and the role of younger players in key moments.
Pretty even game. I thought that we had a lot of chances in the first two periods. We couldn't get it by them, and they made a pretty good push in the third, but both goalies were really good tonight, and that's what I saw.
Berube began by describing the game itself. He said it was a pretty even game. He noted that Toronto created chances early. I thought we had a lot of chances in the first two periods and we couldn't get it by him, Berube said, referring to Detroit's goaltender. He added that Detroit made a pretty good push in the third. These remarks outlined the flow of the game and how momentum shifted late. The overtime period became the turning point. Detroit scored after winning a physical puck battle. Berube addressed that play directly. He said the team would look at overtime situations on video. He then spoke about Easton Cowan's involvement in the sequence. He just got overpowered there at the end, and they ended up scoring on it, Berube said. The comment tied a specific on-ice moment to the final result. Berube did not stop there. He expanded on Cowan's overall performance during the game. I thought he made some really good plays tonight, Berube said. He followed that by saying he does good things and then there are things he has to do better. These remarks showed a full evaluation, not limited to one play. The coach then placed Cowan's performance in a broader context. It's a typical young player in the league, Berube said. He explained that certain decisions must improve. There are plays where he has to recognize that there is nothing there and make a strong play, he added. These comments focused on awareness and puck management. Berube concluded his assessment with clear development points. It's normal for a young guy where he's at, he said. He then stated he has to get stronger and make better decisions at times. These remarks came directly after the loss and were tied to real situations that occurred during the game. The Maple Leafs left the ice with a 24-17-9 record. The loss added pressure to a stretch of close games. Berube's comments shifted attention from the scoreboard to player growth, and what happens next remained unresolved. Berube's comments after the Detroit game reflected those differences. When he said Cowan has to get stronger, the remark aligned with the overtime play where Cowan lost control of the puck under pressure. That loss directly preceded the game-winning goal. Berube also referenced decision-making. He said Cowan must recognize situations where there is nothing there and make a strong play. This referred to moments when holding the puck or forcing a play leads to turnovers. These were not the first public remarks Berube made about Cowan's learning process. In a previous game against Vegas, Cowan took a penalty that led to a scoring chance. After that game, Berube explained the coaching message given to Cowan. Don't reach, Berube said. He is going in on the forecheck, so just don't reach there. Go through the guy, go through the body. It is an easy play. That statement focused on physical engagement and technique. The Detroit loss occurred under challenging team conditions. Toronto played most of the game with a shortened defense due to injuries. Several regular contributors were unavailable. Despite that, the game remained scoreless through long stretches. The winning goal only came in overtime after sustained pressure. Berube's post-game remarks did not include disciplinary action or lineup changes. Instead, they documented specific areas of improvement tied to real plays. He acknowledged positive contributions and highlighted deficiencies using direct language. The comments were factual and immediate. The loss ended with Detroit completing a season sweep against Toronto. The overtime result placed additional focus on execution in critical moments. Berube's statements connected that execution to development, strength, and decision-making. What those comments lead to next was not addressed publicly, and attention remained on how the coaching staff would respond moving forward.
I mean, I think that's got to be the main, point of focus each and every night. Like, we don't have to be the best team in the world every single night, but we need everybody to compete. And we need everybody to just play good. Everybody just has to go out there and do their job and play good. And just the consistency, that's been a big part of it.
Something changed inside the Maple Leafs room, and it didn't happen during the game. It happened after. One short statement from the captain. Calm words, sharp meaning. Fans caught it instantly. Media replayed it again and again. The coach had just sent a message. Hours later, the captain answered, and what followed quietly shifted the conversation around this team. The moment came after practice, not during a game. Auston Matthews stood in front of reporters as the Toronto Maple Leafs tried to reset after another difficult stretch. The team had struggled to close games. Defensive lapses had cost points. Pressure was building. Earlier, head coach Craig Berube had addressed the issue directly. He pointed to leadership. He said the team's leaders needed to take more control.
I thought we just made it really easy for them. The neutral zone was, a highway for them to get through, and I don't know. We just made it so easy for them, and they're obviously a skilled team, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and I don't think we put enough stress on them on both sides of the puck.
That context mattered when Matthews spoke. Matthews did not raise his voice. He did not criticize teammates. He did not challenge the coaching staff. His words were measured. "We can all be better," Matthews said. He pointed to the last two games and called them frustrating. He added that responsibility would fall on the leaders and said he was fine with that. He stressed grinding, consistency, and sticking to what worked earlier in game. They came hours after Berube's blunt assessment following a loss, when the coach said the leaders had to take control more than they were. Berube's style has been direct since arriving in Toronto. He speaks plainly after losses. He places accountability where he believes it belongs. After recent results, that spotlight turned toward the leadership group. At the same time, Berube had been openly praising Matthews' on-ice play. Before a recent game, Berube said Matthews was driving play, creating chances, and playing with pace and determination. That praise was public. It was specific. It focused on effort and approach, not just scoring. This exchange happened during a stretch filled with major moments for Matthews. He had just returned from injury. Soon after, he broke the Maple Leafs' all-time goal-scoring record, passing Matt Sundin. He scored his 421st goal in fewer games than any player in franchise history. That achievement came during a loss, which kept the focus on team results rather than celebration. Inside that environment, Matthews' words took on extra meaning. The captain was not speaking as a player chasing milestones. He was speaking as the face of the team during a moment of scrutiny. His message echoed the coach's demand for urgency and detail. It reinforced accountability without pointing fingers. Fans noticed the timing. Analysts noted the alignment. The conversation shifted from systems and tactics to leadership and response. The reaction to Matthews' comments spread quickly because of what followed on the ice. In the games surrounding those statements, Matthews' role was clear. His minutes stayed heavy. His matchups stayed difficult. He took key defensive zone faceoffs. He remained on the ice late in close games. Those deployment choices reflected trust from the coaching staff. Craig Berube continued to speak about structure and pace in the days that followed. He did not walk back his earlier comments about leadership. He also did not single out any player. Instead, he repeated that the team needed consistent effort across all three periods. His public message remained steady. Matthews' leadership role extended beyond scoring. After returning from injury, he resumed his position on the top line and first power play unit. His ice time remained among the highest on the team. According to NHL game logs, Matthews averaged over 20 minutes per game during that stretch. Those minutes included penalty kill shifts and defensive zone start, areas that often reflect coaching trust. In the days following those remarks, media coverage centered on the connection between the captain and the coach. Analysts replayed both Berube's earlier comments and Matthews' response. The sequence became the story. First, the coach challenged the leaders. Then, the captain answered publicly. Berube continued to praise Matthews' pace and effort in later interviews. Matthews continued to emphasize team play when asked about individual achievements. After breaking the franchise goal record, he redirected attention back to results and consistency. The exchange between coach and captain did not resolve the Maple Leafs' challenges overnight. Wins and losses continued, but the messaging inside the organization became clearer. Accountability was shared, responsibility was acknowledged, changed. Expectations were stated publicly, and as the season moved forward, that short statement after practice remained one of the clearest signals yet of how leadership inside the Maple Leafs room was responding to pressure.
With Marty Biron. Marty, here's an observation I've made. Nothing seems to come easy for this Maple Leafs team.
The Toronto Maple Leafs were not dealing with one bad night or one missing player. The problems were deeper. Defensive numbers told the story. Injuries added weight. Then the general manager broke his silence. He did not shift blame. He did not promise quick fixes. What he admitted placed the entire season under a harsher light.
We're not where we want to be or where we envision to be. Obviously, we've underperformed to this point, and I take full responsibility. I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself, and we start today and every day trying to get ourselves back up and going and improve where we are.
The focus moved sharply to Brad Treliving after the Toronto Maple Leafs continued to struggle through the early portion of the season. During a media availability, the general manager addressed the team's performance directly. He stated, "We've underperformed to this point." That statement placed responsibility at the top of the organization, not on individual players or coaching staff, and it marked one of the clearest acknowledgments from the front office this season. Treliving expanded on that position by stating, "I'm in charge of the hockey department. I've put the people in place on the ice, off the ice, so the responsibility lies with myself." The comment removed ambiguity about where accountability rests. At the time of those remarks, the Maple Leafs held an 8-9-2 record. They ranked second last in the Eastern Conference. The team had also allowed the second most goals per game in the league.
Brad Treliving, the general manager, had his media availability at about the quarter mark of the season, and things are not going well in Toronto right now when you look at the hockey club. And Noodles, one of the quotes that really stood out, there was a lot of great quotes that I want to talk about with you about Brad Treliving. One of them was, "There's too much vanilla with our hockey team right now." And when I think of Brad Treliving talking about we need a new DNA, and right now he's saying there's too much vanilla, I mean, this is a pretty significant message to the players.
Attention then shifted to the team's identity. Treliving described the Maple Leafs on-ice product as too much vanilla. The description pointed to inconsistency and a lack of complete performances rather than isolated mistakes. He also stated that the issues were not limited to specific players. Put anybody in the uniform and playing the way we're playing, we're probably going to have the same result. The general manager also addressed speculation around immediate roster changes. Treliving stated, "You're not trading your way out of problem." That remark signaled resistance to quick external fixes. Instead, he emphasized that improvement must come from within the existing group. At the same time, he publicly reaffirmed his support for head coach Craig Berube, stating, "Craig didn't become a bad coach overnight," and adding that he had all the faith in the world in him. These statements surfaced as injuries continued to impact the roster. Veteran defenseman Chris Tanev suffered a groin injury described in reports as potentially long-term. Other players dealt with lower body issues, further limiting lineup stability. With performance concerns already present, the injury situation increased attention on roster depth and long-term planning, and that pressure remained fixed on the general manager as the situation continued to develop. The situation intensified as external pressure met internal limitations. Reports published in early January indicated that roster planning had become more complicated due to injuries, particularly on defense. According to coverage summarized by Hockey Patrol, the Maple Leafs were forced to reassess trade deadline planning because of player availability and health concerns. Chris Tanev's groin injury was identified as a key factor, with the absence expected to last a significant period, further reducing defensive depth. At the same time, the general manager maintained his stance against reactive decision-making. His statement, "You're not trading your way out of problems," continued to shape public interpretation of the organization's direction. The message was clear: immediate transactions would not replace internal correction. This position stood even as external observers linked injuries and defensive struggles back to roster construction choices made before the season began. The pressure surrounding these comments increased because of timing. The Maple Leafs were not dealing with isolated losses. They were managing sustained inconsistency. According to the Hockey News, Treliving acknowledged the lack of complete games and noted that the team struggled to maintain structure over full 60-minute performances. These remarks aligned with his earlier description of the team's play as lacking attacking edge and consistency. Despite the criticism, Tree Living continued to place emphasis on unity within the organization. His support for head coach Craig Berube remained firm. Tree Living rejected any suggestion that coaching instability was the source of the problem.
Yeah, good resilience tonight and character coming back, coming back the whole game, But we stuck with it, and I thought guys had good attitude and kept competing and doing good things, and ended up scoring some goals, which we needed.
The Maple Leafs fell behind again and again, yet refused to fade. When the final horn sounded, the scoreboard told one story. The coach told another. Craig Berube stood firm after the win, choosing his words carefully, sending a message that landed hard and changed the conversation heading forward. The Toronto Maple Leafs delivered one of their most turbulent wins of the season with a 6-5 comeback victory against the Winnipeg Jets. The game unfolded with constant momentum swings. Each time, the team responded with a goal. The result marked one of the highest scoring games of the season for the club. Auston Matthews led the charge. The Maple Leafs captain recorded a hat trick and added an assist. His third goal came late in the third period and stood as the game winner. According to the official game recap, Matthews finished the night with 4 points, directly factoring into more than half of Toronto's goals. His performance came after returning to the lineup following a brief injury absence. The game also featured a major goaltending change. Joseph Woll started the game for Toronto, but was pulled after allowing 4 goals. Dennis Hildeby entered in relief and stopped 22 of 23 shots. That change stabilized the game and allowed Toronto to stay within reach as the offense continued to press. Winnipeg contributed heavily to the chaos. Mark Scheifele scored twice and added an assist. Gabriel Velarde and Alexi Afalo also found the net. The Jets held leads at several points and entered the third period still within striking distance. However, Toronto's late push proved decisive. After the game, head coach Craig Berube addressed the media. His tone was firm. He focused on effort, response, and execution rather than mistakes. Good resilience and character coming back tonight, Berube said during his post-game availability. He later added, "I like the guy's attitude. Everyone kept going." Berube referenced how the team stayed engaged despite allowing goals. His comments centered on response rather than breakdown. He did not single out individual errors. Instead, he emphasized collective pushback after each deficit. Toronto improved its recent stretch with the victory, while Winnipeg's losing streak extended. The game ended with celebration on the ice, but the focus quickly shifted to the coach's message, which framed the night as something more than just a comeback win. The message from Craig Berube did not stop at resilience. His remarks also reflected how the Maple Leafs are choosing to play during this stretch of the season. Toronto has leaned into offense, even when games become unstable. Against Winnipeg, that approach was visible from the opening period through the final minutes of regulation. Berube acknowledged the reality of the game's structure. Goals were allowed. Momentum shifted, yet the bench response remained consistent. Players continued to attack. The coach did not frame the win around clean execution. Instead, he described persistence through repeated setbacks. His comments aligned with the numbers on the scoreboard rather than any single moment. Dennis Hildeby's role became more pronounced as the game progressed. After replacing Woll, he faced consistent pressure but allowed only 1 goal. His save percentage for the night finished above .950. The stabilization in net coincided with Toronto's ability to push forward without conceding another lead. Berube's comments did not reference external criticism directly. He spoke through the lens of performance. His emphasis remained on how the team reacted after being tested repeatedly. The coach's language centered on attitude, pushback, and staying engaged. These were observable elements reflected in the flow of the game. The win also came during a period of increased scrutiny around Toronto's consistency. High-scoring games have defined recent results. Against Winnipeg, that pattern continued. The Maple Leafs scored 6 goals for the second time in a week. Over their last 5 games, their goal total reached 25, confirming the offensive surge. Winnipeg's situation added context. The Jets entered the game on a losing streak that extended further with this result. Despite strong individual performances, they were unable to hold multiple leads. Toronto capitalized on each opening created. As the media session concluded, Berube's remarks framed the night around response rather than control. The scoreboard confirmed the comeback. The quotes confirmed the stance. The result stood, but the message carried beyond the final horn.
Circle back on Rasmus Andersson as the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know the Leafs tried to trade for Andersson last year at the deadline, and why I mentioned Toronto is that my understanding is that the Leafs would be one of those teams that perhaps Andersson would consider